What is going on, friends? Welcome back. Today we are back at it with the dirty old clapped out 4th gen. Now you may be asking yourself, but Ben, how's it clapped out? Well, it's not, but it's about to be. We've got a leveling kit for the front. We're gonna drop the rear. I'm thinking I would like to try and squeeze some maybe 30-inch wheels with some really tight rubber bands, maybe. And I don't want any offset. I want them stuck, in the wheels, but I want it sitting like this, tooted, like reverse raked. Yeah, reverse raked. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna get this thing knocked out. So instead of having, that and more space back here, imagine it flipped. Imagine this side looking like this, that looking like that, blah, 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 blah. It's gonna sit like this. It's gonna be so tooted. Yes. So we have our front leveling coils from Thurin. So that's gonna raise it up about 2 3/4 of an inch. We've got our friends over at Coil Spring Specialties that hooked us up with some 2 3/4 drop rear springs. So we're gonna get those installed, and see how tooted we can make this thing. It's gonna be sick nasty, dude. Sick nasty. So without further ado, we are gonna start on the back, get this thing dropped down, and get it ready to go. So stay with us while we knock this thing out. If I'm not mistaken, this is how the owner's manual says to lift the truck up. You really want to use a piece of wood that's as rotted as you can find. But unfortunately, I don't really have much rotted wood unless I were to go find a railroad tie or something down the street. We don't have time for that. So in the meantime, this is just going to have to do. But we've got the truck lifted up and we're going to disconnect the sway bars and the shocks. And then we're going to raise the truck up even more. And then we're gonna pull the springs out and put the smaller springs in it and drop it back down. All right, so here we're gonna start by removing the sway bar end links. Now these are easy because really all you have to do is unbolt them from the top on each side. Once they're disconnected, the sway bar itself is just gonna kind of hang there free and out of the way. So after that, we're gonna move on to the shocks. And with these, you only have to unbolt one side as well. Since we are dropping the axle down, or in this case, raising the truck up, we don't really have to pry them out of the mounts or anything like that. So as we raise the truck, they will just kind of hang there and come out on their own. These are essentially the only two things that need to be disconnected in order to do this job, which in my opinion makes this, a whole lot easier than most other jobs. If we didn't remove these two, then we'd get to a point where it'd try to pick the axle up with the truck, and it wouldn't give us the room we need in order to get these rear coils pulled out. So now we can raise the truck up, we can pull out our old springs, and then we can work on getting our isolators ready to transfer over to our new drop coils, as we will need those. All right, just for comparison purposes, you can see how much of a difference it is. Obviously they're not compressed, but it's about almost 3 inches. All right, guys, one thing to note, you always want to make sure you know what came out and what may need to be transferred to your new parts. In our case, we have a thick isolator that goes on the top of the coil, and there's also another small one that sits on the bottom perch that could easily be missed. The worst feeling ever is getting all of this installed and buttoned up and only to realize you have a part laying on the ground. So then you've got to, tear it all back apart, and that sucks. So the driver's side coil was cake. Now we're moving on to the passenger side. It's a little bit more tricky. We have the exhaust and the track bar and other various little things in our way that make it a little more difficult to actually get the spring out. It would definitely be easier to unbolt the frame side of the track bar to give ourselves a little bit more room to get this passenger side spring out. But I was hoping I could accomplish the same with a little less work. So you can see at the end here, we kind of get stuck on the end of the coil, but finally with a little twisting, we got it out. Now we just need to get this new coil stuck in its home. So my approach on putting it back in is a little different than taking it out. I wanted to try going in from the outside because it looks like there might be just a little bit more room. Like I said, this side is a little bit of a tight fit, but after some finagling, it went right in its place. We smack our isolator on, set it down on the lower perch, making sure that the isolator is all lined up, everything looks like it should be, and then from there we can, start to lower the truck back down. When lowering the truck back down on the springs, it's a little different than traditionally raising an axle to the frame. With this, we're taking our time, we're going slow. We want to make sure the coils line up at the top, as they've got these pockets that keep them from being able to slide out of their home or back and forth or anything like that. So if we had a second set of hands, this would be a whole lot easier, as someone can work the jack while someone else lays under there and kind of helps guide the coils into place. So unfortunately for me, I'm by myself today, so I just have to work with what I got. So I'm going little by little until I get just a light pressure on the springs. Then I can move them into place, and this will help hold them there while I lower the truck down the rest of the way. So you can see right here, we have some tension on the spring now, and it's taking a little bit of effort to get it popped into place, but it popped right in, and now we know the springs aren't going anywhere, and we can continue lowering the truck down the rest of the way. And there it is. The truck is now back on its own weight. Now we can reverse the process, get our shocks placed back in their mounts, get them bolted up and snugged down. It can be a fight getting shocks lined up, but I usually personally like to take a pry bar and wedge it between the shock and the mount. It's a good little trick to have in your back pocket. It won't always work, but can be very helpful when it does. This gives me room to move the shock up and down and get the bolt lined up and kind of push through. So it's always nice having that one little trick that can make a job so much easier. Now, obviously installing a shock is not a hard task by any means, but it can be a little rough when you're sitting or laying in a kind of an awkward position and try to push a shock up and hold it at the same time while also trying to stick a bolt through. It can be a little tricky. But last but not least, we've got our sway bar end links buttoned back up, and now a good trick on these is to get one side loosely fitted up, then do the same on the other side. Our ground is a little uneven, so this just gives us a little slack that we need to get both sides in place. So after that, just snug them both down, and bam, we finish the rear. All right, so the back is done. We've got it lowered down. So far, I mean, before it's even settled, it looks, fairly close. Obviously, we've got to drive it, and it's not, on perfectly level ground. Let's go take a look at the other side, just to see how it looks. I mean, keep in mind, we are still raising the front up another 2 3/4, so I think it's gonna be the perfect amount of toot, dude. I meant to get a measurement beforehand, but I completely forgot because I was so excited for all the tootness. But we're gonna go ahead and measure it now before we drive it and it all settles in, just to kind of see where we're at. So right now, the front, again, this is not on level ground by any means, so this is just kind of a rough thing here. Looks about just shy of 9.5. If we come to the back here, try and get it on the same point of the tire. I mean, it's almost dead nuts, which is kind of scary because, we're really going to be super tooted at that point. That 1/4 inch is going to make a huge difference. So I imagine it's still going to settle, a good amount. But yeah, we'll see. Again, like I said, it's not level ground, so this could be way off. But anywho, so I've probably been a mile down the road so far. It feels just like factory. They ride pretty good. They might be just a slight softer. They claim that they're supposed to be the same, I guess, spring rate or firmness as factory. solid. We're gonna have to get some shorter shocks and probably some shorter sway bar links just to keep the coils from being able to pop out of the socket if the travel were to extend too far. That'd be kind of a bad day, so we don't really want that. But here's a bump. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even hardly feel it. Like, yeah, this thing rides like butter. So I'm happy with it. So we'll see. We'll get back to the house and measure it again and see kind of where we sit. All right. So again, not perfectly level ground, but sitting at about 9 1/4 on this side, and right here about 9 3/4. So still got a little rake in the back, but that's okay because those the front coils are going to take care of that. About 9 1/2 over here roughly, and right at about 8 3/4. So yeah, I mean, it's going to sit a good bit higher in the front. If you guys really thought we were going to toot this thing, y'all are wild. Don't be so gullible. We're not tooting this. Might still be clapped, but we're not tooting it. But we do need to wash it because it's dirty. I mean, look at that. That's disgusting. It's not going to fly. So we're going to get this thing cleaned up. It sits perfect. Exactly what I wanted. It's about 1/4 to 1/2 inch higher in the back. So that way, if we, hook a light trailer or something up, it's not gonna sit, facing the moon. But if it becomes to where it seems like there's too much weight in the back, or we start hooking goosenecks and stuff like that to it, I'll go ahead and get an airbag kit. But if you guys have any recommendations on airbags, definitely let me know. I'm not opposed to any brand or anything like that. I've always used Airlift, so I know they've got a good kit. But if you guys know of something else, and no, we're not doing Kelderman. I'm poor. We don't have Kelderman air ride money. Thank you. It is washed, it is waxed, it is good to go. She is shining, looking good. Now we just got to clean the inside. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this thing turned out pretty good. Quick note, just in case you guys were wondering, get you a wife that can back her own trailer. I mean, look at this. Not even trying. But that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. We've got a lot to clean up before the sun goes down, so we're going to hop on that, get all that squared away and taken care of. But as always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.